Hi all, let's look at another very interesting game from the candidates. Tournament of 2018, Vladimir Kramnik against Alexander Grischuk. So d4 from Vladimir Kramnik. We have knight f6, knight f3, g6. And now quite a surprising move, a rare bird move, b3. Very interesting. Now quite often players just kind of carry on with their own plan with bishop g7. This didn't happen in this game. As an example, bishop g7, black can just play as though he's playing a normal King's Indian, well, an old style King's Indian with knight bd7. That should be okay for black. But the more sharp move here, maybe to try and punish this b3, c5 is played. D takes c5. Now this is again quite unusual. Quite often e3 has been played here. For example, this position is about even. So d takes c5, check, and black has really got this semi-open c file, which you might think is okay, a sort of Sicilian defense c file. Bishop b2, bishop g7, e3, black castles, c4, b6, bishop e2, bishop b7. Black seems to have a reasonable position. Well, both sides seem to have reasonably good positions. Now, very interesting maneuver here. The knight on d2, it seems, yeah, white's posture is a little bit passive here in connection with key central squares. Very interesting move. What would you play here with white? If I give you 5 seconds, a positional move here. Okay, knight b1. Yeah, rerouting the knight to c3 here. Keeps an eye on b5 and d5. So knight b7, knight c3. So kind of strengthening control of d5. Rook ac8. Now queen, rook c2 with the idea of queen a1. This is kind of nifty, hyper-modern stuff in the style of Richard Reti here. Queen b8, queen a1. So this is potentially quite dangerous on that diagonal, that battery. a6, rook d2. So there seems to be some sort of bind on the d5 square here, and white's pieces do seem pretty harmonious. Bishop a8, and now another positional maneuver. So what would you play here with white? Another positional little test. Okay, knight g5, and this is a more elaborate maneuver than knight retreat. It's still to try and contact that d5 square. We see the idea unveiled that the knight is going back to h3 to go to f4 now, which will help strengthen d5 even further. Black plays b5, knight f4, b takes, bishop takes c4. Now perhaps encouraged by this bit of activity, black plays what seems to be quite an ambitious move here, rook g5. Alexander Grischuk playing, yeah, it's an ambitious move going for the king, it seems, but is the rook potentially misplaced? Perhaps a safer treatment here would be knight e5. For example, the bishop going back, bishop c6, and if knight d5 taking on d5, queen b7 to try and sort of mirror this battery with queen and bishop, so putting pressure on that diagonal. This kind of position, as an example continuation, is fine for black. That will be fine there. So rook g5, slightly controversial because although it looks attacking, the rook might be subject to tempo gain in white's favour. Knight cd5. You can see that pressure of that battery there against g7. Knight e5. Bishop e2. Knight e4. Rook d4, hitting the knight. The knight goes to c5. Now h4, yeah, gaining a tempo on the rook. And another one now, e4. The knights are holding each other. This is possible. And forcing black to basically lose the exchange. Rook takes, knight takes. For a pawn, knight takes e4. Is this reasonable compensation? Well, white's king seems maybe a little bit more vulnerable in theory with that pawn on h4 rather than h2, and this diagonal seems potentially dangerous. But knight d5 now hits the knight again. Knight c5, rook b4 hitting the queen, moving the queen. Knight e3, a5, rook b5, now knight e6, and there looks to be some dangers. For example, knight f4 looks potentially dangerous to look at g2. There seems to be ways of increasing the pressure here, but what does white play in this position, you think? If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video. Okay, white is not too greedy. He gives back the exchange here. Yeah, this position. So back to equal on pawns. White has a 2-to-1 pawn majority. But factor in also black's king is a little bit less safe than white's now if he loses that fianchettoed bishop. And it's difficult not to. A move like f6 is just horrendous, potentially, with that diagonal. So we have queen c5. On bishop takes e5. Again, this is really dangerous. You can see that black's king would be in a bit of danger. As an example, fictional continuation to show knight g4, queen and knight could be really dangerous here, for example, like this, as a disaster scenario. So yeah, black has to be careful about his king. So queen c5 was played. Bishop takes, knight takes. Queen d4, yeah, not minding this endgame. The a5 pawn, it's not just the fact that it's a 2-to-1 pawn majority. The a5 pawn is pretty vulnerable here. After queen takes, rook a4 is immediately threatened. That's parried with bishop c6. But rook d2, rook b8, rook c2, bishop e8, and a rook on the 7th hitting e7. And now getting behind this a pawn. Yeah, white's in the driving seat here quite firmly. a4 giving up a pawn, but that's a dangerous passed a pawn now, potentially winning trump card. Check, rook b4, and white actually doesn't bother protecting h4. He just plays a5 to accelerate his own a pawn. And now bishop c4, and this rook is potentially going to get stranded if it's not careful with bishop b3 and knight c2. We have bishop c6, but actually here rook c7 is played, bishop e8, a6. Yeah, white's more interested in this pawn now again. So knight h5, knight d5, and the game ended here. This pawn is actually decisive in this position. For example, if e6, yeah, so e6, knight b6, rook a5, a7, and that pawn's queening, or black has to give back a piece, give up a piece, and there's another pawn ready to roll here. Massive advantage for white. So yeah, the a pawn is just totally decisive here. After knight d5, yeah, black resigned. This is a novel opening with that b3, and c5 kind of novel as well. From they reached the kind of interesting position, quite rare. Black played very ambitiously with the rook g5 stuff. It seems because Kramnik was gave a timely return of the exchange, he ended up in basically what he likes, you know, better endgame position. And yeah, the a5 pawn was weak. It wasn't just the 2-to-1 pawn majority, it was the a5 pawn being weak, which led to this decisive kind of a pawn, outside a pawn. So yeah, there's been a lot of decisive wins in round 1 of the Candidates 2018. So very, very exciting first round there for the chess fans. Okay, comments, questions, likes, shares appreciated. Thanks so much.